What is up, folks? Happy weekend. Happy Saturday. Happy Sunday to some of you, like Ash here. I believe is Sunday. But yeah, happy weekend, guys. Here on this to me it's a Saturday afternoon. Ash, what is it? I mean, this is a Sunday morning for you?
Almost
Mi-
8 a.m. Sunday morning, brother.
Yeah, there you go, dude. Look at that. So no, look, guys, welcome back. We're here on Wolf Bitcoin once again. It's been a little bit since Ash and I jumped on one of these weekend sessions, which I think we do pretty good about grabbing at least like one a month. I try and sometimes get like two a month with Ash. Um, these are really, really good in terms of just understanding the structure of Bitcoin on kind of a week to week basis. But sometimes, I mean, I think we get to cover kind of like the larger swing, which is pretty cool. Like we end up getting the breakdown of the entire range that we've been in. So we might be in for one of those. I think today we'll see what Ash has got up his sleeve here, up that gentleman's coat, and we'll break it down. But guys, welcome back. Shout out to Public as usual for sponsoring these shows and this type of content. You can check them out and support Public at public.com/wolf, and you can go take a look at what they're offering. If you've got a TradFi portfolio, I've kind of been saying over the last few streams, if you feel like that brokerage is not quite keeping up with the times, you probably should go take a look at what Public is doing, especially if you've kept up at all with what AI is doing in terms of being able to program some strategies and some automated flows. So go check them out, public.com/wolf. If you need to bring your TradFi brokerage into the modern age, that's the place to do it for sure. So we got some reposts of people coming in already. What's up, Darren? We got Darren. I gotta get Darren on at some point as well. We're gonna have to bring on Darren here for a Wolf stream here because Darren is doing things, and I need to bring this guy on at some point. So happy Saturday, man. What is up, Carl? Appreciate Carl. Carl's always supporting the crew. Carl's one of the OG Lady Trader community members, but it's good to see him. He's jumped in. He's supporting everyone. He's a regular Wolf listener, so it's good to have Carl with us. But guys, as you're coming in, if you'd be so kind, make sure if you want to support, give the stream a like, give it a quick little like, a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, and a repost if you're feeling brave, if you're feeling good today, give it a repost, share this out. But yeah, we're gonna jump into some charts today. Disclaimer as usual, everything we're gonna cover is just our opinions. It's just for education. It's just focusing on the chart structure, not really on the instrument that we're going to be talking about. So in this case, we may cover BTC, but we're not making any recommendations or suggestions in terms of what you should do with that. You're going to decide all on your own. If you're a buyer, if you're a seller, as always, go consult with a licensed advisor before making any kind of decisions like that. But yeah, we're just here to make some good content in terms of chart analysis. So we're gonna talk about these charts. We're gonna pull out all of Landy's crayons, his magic crayons, and see what we can put together here. But let's jump into some of this stuff. Bottom seeker, yeah, for sure. Ash, dude, I'm ready whenever you are. I've got the chart pulled up here. I've got your screen ready to rock and roll. If you need me to yap a little bit longer, I can yap a little bit longer if you're tied up or whatever. But let's see here. I'm checking the chats.
I think we're good, man.
Hey, Ryan, you don't have to interrupt anything, man. This is 2026. You should be able to watch the World Cup while watching the stream, while chatting on X, all at the same time, buddy. Like there's no conflict here, right? Gotta get with the
Tickers you
times.
want, boys. Keep those tickers in your pocket for now, Mr. Ryan.
This guy. Now, look, let's kick it off. Let's go over Bitcoin. If we have time and we can pull up some other stuff, we'll do that. But really, what I want to review is Bitcoin because everyone is losing their mind on the timeline right now. It's a very interesting period for BTC. We're at a big high time frame zone, and man, people, I haven't seen the timeline this divided between bulls and bears in a while. So I don't know, maybe Ash, I mean, do you have some insight for us? I'm sure you have an opinion on where we are, what you think is coming next. Curious to kind of get your take, and as usual, I'll kind of chime in with any questions or feedback, and if I need to pull up a chart, I'll pull up a chart. But otherwise, dude, I'm happy to hand it off to you and get your take on Bitcoin. What are you seeing? What happened this last week? What do you think is setting up here more than likely as a potential for next week? And how are you planning preparing, I guess, for the new week?
Yeah. Well, just funny thing, when you were talking about the we're just doing looking at charts, things like that, and obviously the no financial advice pieces. In Australia, we just call that, we're doing this for shits and giggles.
There you go. Same here. Yeah, it's the same thing we say here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Shits and giggles. That's what we're here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Look, I mean, when we get to the lower time frame, I think it's interesting because you and me were a little on slightly different sides this week, which was cool. Because I was like, fuck, I've got to look at this, work out what's going on. Pardon my Australian language. We'll get there. So I just got to go through really quickly some of the things that we went through with Landy, the king crayon consumer, Mr. Crypto Landy, on his stream. That might have been 2 weeks ago now, I think.
Yep.
And it was some interesting things, and we were talking about some of these little oscillators that I've started to use a little bit, and how we had a lot of people. You'll see a lot of talk about bullish divergences on daily timeframes and weekly timeframes popping up. That's been a bit of a thing I've seen the last week, 2 weeks. Yeah. And I remember talking with you guys, and I was going, yeah, but has anyone actually seen the monthly bearish divergence that's actually on BTC? Like,
no.
And I've been finding that really interesting. So I'm still looking at that. It's it's not saying anything yet. But when you go down there, and this is what we will look at quickly on the weekly time frame, is you've got some nice little wave crosses down here for these momentum waves, and you can see right now we haven't got that yet. Doesn't mean it can't cross immediately. But It's just interesting to see. If anything, it points to we're close, right? To put it from a more bullish perspective. So this isn't like bear porn or anything. This is just an interesting thing to take into consideration. That and I think most people, particularly in the wolf side of things, have been talking about. These are quite possibly not terrible places to be initiating DCA strategies and things like that. Not to say that it can't go lower, and we tend to think eventually it will. But from a long-term perspective, if you are long-term bullish on Bitcoin, these are some things that might be possible. So just get down to the weekly, and this is what I keep pointing at. Don't know why that's there. That's probably me not knowing how to use things. This is the one that I've been looking at the most. This is the one I've been putting out semi-frequent posts about. So to break this down in a really simple way, again, you've got oscillations and we have our price action. And these circles are corresponding with bottoming ranges and high time frame. That's not an arrow. I want an arrow, not that one. Is that an arrow? There you go.
Yep.
This here is your high time frame wave. In this case, if you look over here, that gets out of the way. This is the monthly wave. So these are those monthly waves that we were talking about before, how they were coming down, they were crossing. And you've got that same sort of situation happening over here and correspondingly over here at the moment. And what you can see is some similarities where you have monthly waves coming down, and then you're getting some signal type prints on your weekly time frame, which is our localized chart. So this is the wave for the weekly time frame, right? And you're seeing that here, and you're seeing that here, and so on and so forth across the chart here, right? And so all this is to designed to tell us is where is momentum? Are we seeing structural changes corresponding with flow and momentum changes, along with things like the type of price action we're seeing, right? And right now, to me, we're in a very similar vein as we were in these sorts of ranges. We're sort of getting close, but if you look at here where these waves crossed, and if you look over here where these ones crossed, we sort of had a nice bullish divergence on all but this one come in, and that sort of gave us the, hey, look, this is looking like we might be getting ready for some upside. So I've been tinkering with this, like you could say this and sort of stuff, but realistically, you're looking for,
we know exactly where, but we know we're nearing it, right?
Precisely, dude. Yeah. So, like, I'm looking for that. I'd love to see this come down.
Yeah.
Just give us a little bit of this, and have this also come down and start to flatten out. And that sort of information would be really good for me. That's going to be sort of that information along with volume and things like that to help me go, look, this is probably. I'm probably done looking for any kind of real shorts, even if it's like relatively low time frame stuff, because trying to squeeze the blood out of the stone is not really sort of something that I desire to do.
Yeah, I will say right now the ranges have been pretty giving. I mean, I think in both directions, like we've seen a lot of like if you wait for that range to be established, you do see quite a few moves back and forth between extremes. So I'm curious, like at what point we start to trend a little heavier and do less ranging. But right now, I mean, it seems like that time is still pretty good to trade. Ryan says this is a good question, Ryan. Sorry to interrupt there, Ash, but look, maybe we'll hit on this today, and I think this is actually what everyone is probably wondering, is because we know there's interest around those mid 50s, mid to low, even I would say mid to low 50s. We know there's interest. We know there's liquidity. There's a lot at like 57.5 around there. This is a good one. We'll come back to this because I think that ultimately where Ash is going is probably going to answer this here, your question, or at least entertain the question and say, okay, well, here's both scenarios. Here's what happens if we do or if we don't. I certainly will hit on that because I do think there's, even from like a social sentiment and a game theory type of mindset, I think there's a case to be made for it to be left alone, and then there's also the case for it to be taken. So yeah, we'll definitely hit on that.
100%. And I think that's the weekly, the next week or so sort of discussion, effectively, isn't it?
100%, dude. 100%. And then Darren left some comments. Darren was saying just sometimes that like we're seeing with the bear div on the high time frame, like sometimes that divergence doesn't, it takes a while for it to get convergent again. So you got to wait.
Absolutely,
for that structure. 100%.
Yeah, you're looking at weeks realistically for that stuff to start to play out.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, no rush.
Appreciate you guys with the comments, by the way. Like this is half the fun, if not more, is going back and forth with the comments with you guys when it's just, and Ash, you probably feel the same way. Like, but when you're just sitting there and you're just kind of talking, it's just not the same thing, man. The fun is the engagement for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to know if the points are landing. 100%. It can feel like sometimes, and I know you say this a bit in your chat, in your streams as well, as if there's people asking questions and engaging, it's a little bit more fuel for us to keep doing these sorts of things as well, because it's okay. Look, people are interacting. I can see that this might be providing some value. I'm not just sort of talking into the void,
Yeah, 100%. Then you're no different than the people that are just like streaming a chart with no narration, no commentary, and it's like, wow, maybe some people find value in that, but the value is in the take for sure. And if people are responding to that, that's a feedback loop. It's we need it
for sure. So look, on the weekly, like obviously you can see where these ranges are. These have been here for a while now.
Yep.
They're still targets. Effectively,
100%.
This is still where's the little paintbrush? I think I said to Kay when Kay was asking all of us for our inputs, it was like this here was sort of my bullish, and this here is my sort of more bearish targets, and those remain the same. until in case we see something that changes. So that's really it for that. So you can sort of see those ranges realistically where 52 to 42 range for me is my first initial big target from where we are now. So what I might do is I'm just going to flip now to the other chart.
You know what I just noticed on that other chart that you just had, the one you just flipped away from? I was looking at your track line, and it's interesting that every bear market, I mean, you only have you've got two previous data sets here on screen, but the time spent below the track line has probably more than doubled. I'd say maybe close to
it has. Yeah, I have noticed that. Yeah.
So I'm curious if this will be the same, right? Like if those larger AOIs below, if we're still going down there, like it's going to be like, what's the likelihood that we'll see the same thing where it'll be like a doubling or tripling of the last one in terms of time and distance below it?
It could be, and that's the thing too. Like one thing that I noticed whilst you're looking at that is it's also when it dropped below, once it got back above, it was good, right?
Yes, exactly.
Same here.
Yep. Whereas
this one has, if you look, it actually flashed red, then they peaked above it and went flashed red again, right? So it's an interesting observation. But I mean, realistically, what it has said is that once you're below the track line on the weekly, you are getting close, right?
Yep.
At least when you hold strong. So, good point. So we'll drop to the daily, and we'll have a bit of a look here. So this isn't saying too much, but what I just wanted to point out was, I'm just going to get rid of this. Been doing a lot of posts about trying to, I've been focusing a lot more on volume related posts lately to sort of help people understand a bit more how I use volume.
Yep.
And what I've just got circled here is we actually have had a nice little bit of a blue vector here. So that's a 150% volume. So that's a positive sign. Okay.
Well, I want to clarify this as well, right? So when we're saying 150%, that's greater than, and this is why I think it's significant. You actually had two 200% right before that, which means that this blue one would have to be 150% more than those as well, right? So like
it's of the last 10 candles, so it's sort of like this range. I don't know why that won't.
So even though it didn't engulf the red volume, it's still significant that we saw that level of buy come in there after those two big red ones, right?
I would say yes. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, we're here to read. So this is data. We're trying to turn that data into information, right?
Yeah.
And you can't, the same way we didn't ignore this, right?
Sure.
You can't necessarily ignore this either. Now, it's obviously not as sort of like cataclysmic, but it's the biggest sort of buy vol you've seen on the daily for, realistically sort of getting to around here. It's been a while, right? So it's information to be like, hey, look, and we'll talk about this.
Look, send it all to zero. I'll mix a vote. This one's hilarious because it reminds me of the chicken and the bell, the making the big.
Oh no. God. Oh no. Landy, let me know if you got those if you want that Leviathan 30-second liquidation levels as well, dude, if you can't find it. I know I mentioned that yesterday and you sounded pretty excited about it, so I can
So hold on, Ryan. This is happening just right now? The tanker attack? This thing is happening live, or is this like old news, Ryan? Would be curious, because I am on the side of like a sweep coming for sure. But I'm curious if this is this breaking news? Like Ryan, you're sliding.
Going to zero, Brian? All right.
You gotta, like, if this is breaking news, dude, why does your comment not say breaking news? Like, what's going on here?
And why is it not all in capital letters?
Correct. And then James wants to know, and we'll get back to this one, but what invalidates 30s, 40s? What would be the scenario, I guess, is what James is asking, that we find a macro low somewhere up here in the 50s and 60s, which I think a lot of people are asking about that. So that's a good question to kind of come back to as we're breaking down this level, and that'll tie in also with like what Brian is saying, which is do we have another sweep coming, like a a plus one, as you would call it, right, Ash? In terms
Yeah,
of
yeah, we
Yeah.
would. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, so like this, you can't necessarily ignore this, right? And you shouldn't. I, the amount of people that I talk to that just don't look at volume, and they even if they don't look at volume, they use the PVSRAs,
Yeah.
but they don't like PVSRA is only as good as understanding how big that volume is because of the relativity of how they're measured. Right? You really good, even if it's not like a special pretty colored one. You just use a standard volume on TradingView. Like do yourself a favor and learn some basic things around how volume works. You know, like the price, like you'll see me always posting things like, okay, price is doing this with this type of volume and maybe this sort of open interest traits and like it's a real it's I'm not gonna say it's a cheat code because nothing's a cheat code, but it's information that you should be
Edge.
using.
It's edge. It's
Yeah,
edge. It's definitely
yeah,
edge. I mean,
I agree.
to your point, like a big green buy bar on the volume or on a PVSRA candle, a big green, 200% or something like that. That is a very different scenario if it comes after a lot of high volume red versus like a
Exactly.
bunch of plain boring standard volume. Like that's a totally different story that it's telling you.
Yep, completely agree. And that's what we talk about, creating effectively like climax volume or we
Yes.
sometimes refer to as peak formation volume.
Yep.
Because you've got max sell and max buy coming in meeting each other like some kind of Dragon Ball Z episode, right?
Yeah.
That kind of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't think you can ignore this right now. I may choose to based on what I see on the lower time frames, but it's something that I'm going, okay, well that's interesting. 4 hour. Oh, actually, what I will just show as well, you probably notice here. So I've got a 50% of the weekly vector. As you know, like I always like to measure those out.
Yep.
And that's not like 50, that's not like some kind of fib, it's of the vector candle itself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how we're doing that. So bang on the 50. And that's because again, one of the things that I like to do is because I tend to sleep through the volatility sessions is when I look at limit orders and I see price moving in a certain direction, I tend to bait my orders around the 50% vector to try to get picked up on the and then wake up ideally.
That's a huge level, that 50% in CRT method. I don't know how much you've studied CRT, candle range theory, but a lot of the opportunities in that methodology is around like a 50% retrace of a directional candle.
Yeah. I need to I've got a list of like things that I need to read up about, and that stuff is one of them. I think you and Goat were talking about that stuff the other day, and I'm like, what the hell does this mean? I don't know what that means. But yeah, let's go back here. All right, let's go to I want to go to the 4 hour, I think. Let's go to the 4 hour. All right, so what I just want to show here, and I've been testing out some new ways to present levels to people in my posts the last week or so. People might be noticing that or not, I don't know. But like obviously I normally use my boxes, but what you'll see on the lower time frames is I've been using a little bit more of a ziggy-zaggy type of situation to sort of maybe help demonstrate and how that stuff looks. And what I just want to highlight here is, so you see this, I've got this marked as a DL3, which is, people know the sort of system that's sort of the last standard wave we would expect. Inside of that it has 3, and inside of that it has 3, and everything goes down to basically ground zero. But what I'm interested in looking at here is, if I'm using that theory, is this possibly being the 1, this being the 2, and this possibly still being in the phase of completing 3. Okay, and I'll show that soon. But if you can keep that sort of rough idea in your mind, this is sort of what I'm talking about at the moment. and it'll be obvious of if it gets invalidated because effectively price will sort of probably get above here, right? That'll be it basically, because you don't want to see a retracement ideally come above the previous one, because then you're effectively, there's a structural change there, and then you're looking for a retest to prove that move. But they're going into basic market structure. That's sort of, gosh, sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong things here. That one. That's sort of what I'm thinking at the moment, and I'll just sort of show you why. So if you think that this is still in play, and whether or not you think it's done or not, it's possible. It's not. The one area is what I'm paying attention to, and the way that we look at that, if I get rid of that, we look at groupings of 3, right? So what we had here was bang, 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 consolidate, and then bang, bang, bang. And this is a large wave. Now, we have talked about in the past how I get a bit skeptical when I see really long consolidations between levels, because that does make me think that it's possible that this was fully complete and this is actually the beginnings of a whole new series. Okay. But I'm not getting caught up on that too much, because this has been a bit sloppy. Like, you could easily just call this one drop consolidation and we're starting a whole new level. But I'm open to differences, and there's a reason why. This is a little bit noisy, but this is where we ended up last week. Oh, sorry, the week before last. So these are my 1 hour counts where we came in after we'd set this localized bottom, and we'd been talking like this looks corrective. Doesn't mean you can't trade it, still looks corrective. And then we've basically had topping peak formation put in, and then we started our wave 1, our retrace, our wave 2, retrace, wave 3, and then we saw our retracement between our levels take us in through the weekend. And if I put our market sessions on, just do this, we have our Friday session down here. Okay, this is our Friday session where profits started to get taken, and we saw our retracement move. Just going to turn off EMAs and track line right now, just so there's a little less noise on the chart. Might just help a little bit. So this here was our Friday take profit range, and what we saw was, we know we talk about our Monday day trade, or the, before the weekly trend gets set. Monday's session gave you an upswing, and then we started our impulsive move to the downside for the week, right? And what I'm looking for this week is to see if I get something similar, right? What we have noticed lately is they've been starting the weekly swing like almost like basically on the nose on Tuesday, right? It hasn't been like Wednesday. It's been pretty early. So if you've missed your day trade, they've been basically giving you the clean sweep for the weekly swing. So what you see there is something similar to what I'm kind of looking at now. I did see Darren mention something.
Yeah, he's dropped a couple comments here. I'll put one up. First one, he was talking about the vectors, talking about the difference between the average volume of the last 10 and not the cumulative volume of the last 10.
Yeah, it is average volume. Yeah. It's it takes, I forget what the math is, but yeah, it's average sort of percentage. So it's depending on if you've got tons and tons of volume.
Yeah.
In the last like 10 candles, and then you have one that is still really high volume, but it's less than 150%. You could still have a really high volume move, but it not be marked as a vector, right? Because it's lower than the average. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other comment he said was about the last stage of bear.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, without going into any system too much, yeah, Linda is basically when you catch the start of a higher time frame move on the lower time frame, and you ride it through all of the different time frames. So you might catch it on the 15-minute, and somehow you've caught the 15-minute rise level that started the 1 hour, that started the 4 hour, that started the 12 hour, that the daily. You basically catch a pico bottom effectively, and you ride it to exhaustion. the extension thing is interesting. So, interesting thing, Darren, is I disagreed with some of the counts that I'm not a member for sort of 2 years now, but I was disagreeing, and disagreeing because he knows I was. I was looking at an extension move well before it was marked that way, and we were talking about it as I think at the time we were talking about it as a rise level extension into a rising wedge, something like that. I think it was, and then it broke down. But I digress. I get shit wrong all the time, so I'm not about to say, that I'm perfect. Far from it. But the extension as well, yeah. So, and that's, we can look at that, but it's a good point, because the extension wave, I think, is the play that would get us to that lower 30 if it plays out. That's why I have it as the more bearish target, not the bullish target. But I think we're on the same page, actually. I think I get what you're saying. When our Linda in motion. Interesting. Yeah, okay. Can you be interested to see if you could post your chart in the trade group, Darren? I'd be interested to have a look at it, dude.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea, actually. Darren, if you want to drop it in the DM group on X, the trade group, and then we can open it up and look at it on stream, and then we can make fun of you or whatever if we need to.
Darren's got his screw on. He knows what he's doing. All right. So say this is.
I'm about to send him the link so he can jump on here and you two can just fight over it live. I don't know about it.
No, he's good. No, look, I haven't got that much time today. All right. So let me get into this. So where we are here, right? So you can see I've got my traps marked out. So this is our weekend range. So we'll see if we just continue to do a bit of this sort of action until whatever happens on Sunday, Monday. But in a nutshell, what I'm looking for is, if this isn't complete, because there's a case that I think Papasaurus was talking about this as well. It's quite possible that this was actually an M reset, and this is not actually one, this is actually the retrace, and this is one, and you actually got two more waves down. But one thing at a time. Yeah, that is a little bit more brutal. Whereas with this, one wave, two wave, and this here, and this is what it's going to be interesting to see how the week opens, is if we do get maybe something a little similar to like I'd like to see them do maybe something like this. Yeah. Right, so around 62. If they set up like that on the week open, that's sort of more the move that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
if I would take
that one for sure.
You take that short, yeah. I bet you, yeah. So I mean,
that would be like it's a big level, right? It was last week's low or something like that. It was also it's a big area, that 62. Failure there, I think, opens up that next leg now.
And you and me were talking about this, right? We were sitting on the previous week low, right?
Yeah,
we broke down and going, okay.
Was hoping we'd get a sweep and a bounce, and it did not do it.
Yeah, they just kept on going. So and the thing is, once they did, I think I said this to you as well, is like once they broke that level and they broke it with volume, all bets were off for me. So I think I had a short somewhere around, like I was being a bit cheeky. I'm like, well, look, I think my short was here, and I actually closed somewhere around it was somewhere around this range, because I woke up at about somewhere around here. So I closed somewhere around a 2.3 or something, but
nice.
It was fair enough, because this wasn't super convincing, the original drop, because there was no volume here. It only came in here. So this is a really cheeky setup. But
you took my money on that one. I was on the long side. And I took a little 3% or 3% hit on the position. But
you've taken mine plenty of times. It was good to get. But yeah, I think this is sort of what I would like to see. If I was, and when I say like to see, I mean if I'm looking to play short, right? I was very open in the chat and on the timeline. That SVC stuck out like an absolute like if you missed that SVC, and you stayed short there, and you were short late, you probably got it handed to you. So that is like one of the nicest sets of like stopping volume formation candles that you can sort of see. It's just unfortunate it happened over the weekend, or into the weekend, but I digress. That's a sign. Don't miss things like that. That's literally like a flag in the field, right? But what we're looking for now is if they do this, this would be where the swing for me would be going, okay, if that's setting up, if they swing high, take the liquidity and look to be sort of basically setting up for more downside, is that would be then where I'm looking at that move. And I mean, just placating what it could look like, but it might be more like this, something like that. But I'd be looking at
actually in line with CRT. I know you kind of mentioned it earlier. So you see that vector candle, the drop that you have labeled as number 3.
Yep, this one here. Yep.
You see how everything's just an inside bar within that candle.
Yep, so, reclaiming a whole heap of it.
Yeah, so basically CRT is looking for a sweep either of the upside or the downside for a move across that range. So according to this, right, like if you go and you breach that upside first, CRT would tell you that you're looking for a directional move back to the downside through that candle range that's established right now. So yeah, that's pretty much.
I need to read that stuff. I really need to. Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, you're right. It's all within the body of this one candle, right? Yeah. You can sort of see like the reason I've got AOI is people want to know as well. When I do an AOI, I'll just go back here. So if I go back to here and look at it, they tried, like, people who were late shorty, you can see just how smashed they would have got, right? That's like a 75% reclaim of the drop level 3 candle. You got boosted if you started shorting in this. You just got run. So when you see that, like, all you got to do is go, okay, when they've taken the retracement, how much have they taken, right? Again, we look at 50%, and then I tag whatever the remainder is, because I'm looking to see how price reacts once it gets, or if it can get back into that range. If it keeps eating into it, right, and it doesn't like reject, then that's to me is a sign that they're probably not continuing that direction that they were going beforehand. They're more interested in starting to eat some liquidity, and that's how your AOIs get created, by going, once the move gets done, where does the retracement come to? Whatever gets left over, that's what I mark, and then I slowly adjust that based on how the price action moves, because they're like little zones where I look from. That's why we call them an area of interest, because we're interested to see how price action reacts if and when it re-enters that zone, right? Yeah. Just get out of that. So that is really the summary for me. It's if they do this again, that's the weekly swing I'm looking for. Conversely, if they actually decide to maybe, and I'll show this in a minute, if they decide to, sweep, right, that could be it.
I'm looking the other way. Yep.
And that's when we're then looking for this. And I think you're looking somewhere in the 70 odd. Was it 72? I think you're looking at.
Yeah, 72ish. Yep.
Yeah, and because like there's fat like we know for a while and we can look at that. There's pretty decent liquidity here, so. Yeah. So this would be fine. Like either way, I don't particularly mind. But what I'm not looking at doing, with the way that how short and stabby these moves have been from Sunday, Monday, I'm not super interested in getting involved in whatever happens on Sunday, Monday. Again, I'm going to look for what I think is more likely to play out for the week, and that'll be again that Tuesday session. And to give some like insight as to why we're looking at that, we've been talking about like a little bit more on the order book lately. And if we go ahead and pop across the again, this is obviously Kiyotaka versus MMT. I know with sort of some debate on what people like to use, but like anything that's yellow is generally above. I think I've got it above like 2 or 300. So like you can see like that's 1.3 thousand BTC right now. That could just disappear in 1 minute, but you can see you can either look at this as protection or bait. That's really how I think of it. And then when you see them really heavily stacked up, that's when we start to think of, hey, is it a sell wall or a buy wall, right? That sort of stuff. So what I found interesting is that this has kind of persisted on and off for a few days. Particularly this one's been there for I think the start of the week. So that's why I'm interested to see if they do that sweep low and pick up some of these orders. I think the play to the upside is more likely than not.
Yep.
But I'm not silly to think that, hey, just because these orders are here now, what we know they like to do is they might like to spike in the opposite direction and then bring price down, and these orders will slowly begin to trickle feed down as they continue to lure price into those ranges. Then when they're done, it'll be over, and then we'll play. So that's sort of the things that I'm looking at with the order book, along with the overarching sort of price action into Sunday, Monday, and then swing on Tuesday, to give me the idea of where I might choose to play this week, Bits. And realistically, man, that's where I'm at. I've been doing a bit more stuff with the ETF stuff based on some of those details that Landy was gracious enough to show us the other week. They're things that I knew about but never really looked at intently. The only one I do just want to show, and this is one that we've always looked at, is our spot volume. Yeah. So we're still like, there's a little uptick here, right? Little uptick. But I mean, we did see that here as well. And so, I mean, again, we're just seeing lower highs, lower lows, right? So like these sorts of things are not, this doesn't look real good. And if I do one more little thing to show, and this is interesting, and just show really briefly, on that ETF chart that, again, Landy showed us the other week, not on the daily, but if you look at, was it the monthly? It's actually at least on this chart, this is actually the largest monthly outflow that's happened from ETFs, which is interesting. Yeah. That's pretty dramatic.
And there is a correlation too between or at least there was. I haven't tracked it closely in a while, but there used to be a correlation between the largest outflows marking lows on the mid to higher time frame and the largest inflows marking highs, right?
Yeah. And I think that's similar to like that premium index type of chart where you sort of see effectively like the capitulation type of thing before the bounce, and then it comes back in. So, that could be what we're witnessing. It definitely could be. No one's here to say exactly what's going to happen. We're just talking about things that we see, right? So
it's not like we're Canadian, No,
look, one day I'm going to get Trader Steve. We'll get him on here. I'm going to fire some questions at him. But that's me, man. That's pretty much a really basic breakdown. Well, maybe not basic, but what I'm looking for. They're the two sort of plays. Unfortunately, I cannot say it's definitely going up or down as much as people want that. But you can see what I'm looking for, and that's sort of how I'm going to play it.
Yeah, people get really caught up in the, you drew this, like this thing you have right now, right? Oh, you drew this squiggle and it didn't play out. Therefore, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's, look, I think we have a lot of work to do as a community, as like the TA community, in terms of cleaning up a lot of the damage that, the KOLs and the engagement baiters and stuff like that have done with posting stuff of like the bottom is in or the top is in and we're absolutely going up now. We're absolutely going down. We are here. Like all that junk, all that slop that you see all over.
I love it. We are here. We are here, or alts are getting ready to explode. Honestly, I get very bullish on those posts. Very, very bullish. That's what I like to see. Yeah.
No, look, it's all of that stuff it's a mess. And, there's but even for us, like I like to remind people that, everything that I'm looking at and that I share with you guys, it's just my own learning. It's stuff that I'm studying, stuff that I'm trying to figure out. I'm a very much I've said it before, I'm like a learn, do, teach type of guy. And, with that, like the CRT stuff is not something that I'm super, super knowledgeable on, but it's something that I'm trying to figure out. But look, I mean, this is why I've been paying so much more attention to CRT, like just briefly, right? But this is where, Ash, like when you look at ranges like this, right, where a single candle effectively builds a range that you're stuck inside of, and then it's not until you get that deviation outside of the range that the trending and directional move then explodes, right? And we've seen this multiple times. BTC has so many examples that you can go back and you can see the same thing. But there was that example here. You had the same thing here, right? Weekly candle, set up a range. It wasn't until that range was broken in one side that you got the trending move in the other. And I think right now what's interesting is you actually have a similar setup here. Again, you don't really know that you're setting up like a range until you get some inside bars, but we've had you've had two inside bars here on this weekly chart within the move that was put in at the beginning of the month, and we just now had a break to the downside. So although I don't know the probability of this setting up for a move across, if you did move across, where does that take you? Where's the top of this candle? The top of this candle is 74K.
It's a good target, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's kind of where I get that 72 from. Is like, that's an interesting move there. And look, there's on the 3-day, there's also a similar, like you could say the same thing on the 3-day, right? Like you have some candles here where, what is this doing here? Hold on here. Why is that? Get rid of that. Same thing here. You could say, okay, and this was that 3-day range that I was watching, and we got so close to, but we didn't break above, man. I was wanting this thing to roll over after a breach to the upside, and it didn't give it. So this is the only reason, like between the weekly chart and then this 3-day chart, they both have a clean, untapped upside in terms of those ranges. And so if we're just getting this here, even if it's just a move to the top of the 3-day range, that puts us up on a move back above 67, 68K. And then if that were able to maintain that momentum, then we're looking for that extension up to 72, 74, somewhere in there. So
what's your RR on that, like on that trade then when you're looking at it? Because I'm just interested.
If this low is in, like if we're assuming that low is in, right, and we're able to get that
cover that wick line.
Yeah, so you'd basically have a 3.5R across the range, and then if you were to get the full move on like the weekly, you're looking at almost a 7R, dude. That's a massive one.
Yeah, I mean, even a 3.5, like, because I think I said so. Like, I won't usually take anything less than a 2, ideally a 2.5. So that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
I think the risk here is that like you could still, and this would still be valid if this 3-day candle, this current one, this one could still sweep the low here, right? You could still get a sweep, but ultimately you don't get the follow through, and then you would still see that move. So it doesn't mean that this is the low. It just means that we're getting, that move across here. Because some of the prior ranges, if you go look at them, even using this one here, you got the sweep, and then you had a couple more weeks that were still outside of that range before you moved back inside of it. So it doesn't have to mean that this is the absolute bottom. You could either have some consolidation here outside of that, and then that kind of sets up that deviation, that little deviation below the range, or we could still have another candle that still sweeps the low, but ultimately it doesn't really find acceptance below there, and then it just ultimately gives you just that deviation below, and then you're looking for a move at least to the 3-day range, maybe to the weekly range. So could be interesting, dude.
I think so. And to that point, and that's why, like, particularly, like I always say, like I don't like opening any kind of position on the weekend, because that play you're talking about could literally just be that could be the sweep to the low on the Sunday, Monday before, say, they decide to use that as a deviation to then take us up, right? So you think you're taking a good position, but you get swept out, and then they go in the direction that effectively you were betting on. But I guess, and someone mentioned in the chat before, but like it speaks to you. Sometimes you just got to be patient, right? Just wait for that move to tell you exactly what's going to happen.
Even this quarterly, like here to me, is interesting from like a CRT perspective, that if we were to close within last quarter's range, this tells us that there is some upside. It doesn't mean we have to sweep like the high of this current quarter or anything like that, but it does mean we can move into that. And I mean, if you just do a basic candle range, your 50% of the current quarter is at 69. So do you go up and you sweep that 69, which is that 3-day range high, and then you get continuation of the downside, right? Or do you get a deeper move, which 75% of that is at 75K, which is, both are interesting numbers. If you were getting like a quarterly false move to the upside before continuation in the new quarter, right? So somewhere like maybe like that, right? So
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Just a different perspective on it. But yeah, I'm watching this range that we're in right now just because of the way that we didn't really take that high. To me, it's like someone's getting
They
faked out
left the
here.
liquidity, eh? They left it there on
Yeah,
purpose.
someone's gonna get faked out, man. I don't know if it's me or if it's the other guy, but someone's gonna get faked out in this class.
Maybe both. Who knows?
So I don't know, dude. But anyways, dude, I appreciate you coming on again. I know it's morning time for you. I think you had some swimming activities planned with the kiddo today. So
Yep. I do indeed.
cool, man. Well, again, appreciate you. Thanks to everyone that was in the chat with us. We saw a lot of comments come through. We didn't highlight all of them, but appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, for hanging out, for reposting, for engaging with us here. Landy, oh my God, so many comments here. Good stuff. Is there anyone we should really? What's my invalidation? Is who's asking that? Landy. What's
James
my,
also was asking about that invalidation for the lows, wasn't he?
yeah, Landy makes some really good comments. Do we have time to maybe look at some of this stuff? Or I look, Ash is on a kind of a little bit on a crunch here. Landy, I'll send you some comments in the DM group as far as like what my invalidation for that would be if we're looking at that range reclaim. But hey, we got DeFi enthusiasts hanging out with us as well. Longtime friend, good to see you. And Salty's in here. Yeah, look, we'll do some more stuff like this, like throughout the week. I'll hit on some of this stuff on some more of the follow-up streams and stuff. But happy to chat in the DM groups with you guys about all this stuff. Ryan, appreciate the support, dude. Darren, thank you, sir. But yeah, guys, with that, again, shout out to Public for sponsoring this type of content and allowing us to produce more of it for you guys. And the way you guys can show us and Public and Wolf Bitcoin support is make sure you're liking these, make sure you're reposting them, leave comments, engage in the chat, share these things with friends that are into the markets or are looking to trade, are interested in like where's the right place to buy. Share this out, send it out to your DM groups, text it out to people, invite them to come be a part of the community that we're building here, focused on education, really like on what Landy said earlier, which is we're educating people so that people aren't falling for just the clickbait, engagement bait posts, which are not really rooted in any kind of information. They're just there to get people to click. And a lot of times it's actually even a little darker than that, which is getting people on the wrong side of the market.
Yeah.
Profit off of it.
That's the worst part. That is the worst part.
Yeah. But look, with that, guys, we're going to jump. I'm going to let Ash get to his Sunday activities with the family. And then I do believe here in about 20 minutes, Taj is coming on with his Good Bits show that he does every single Saturday, where he covers all of the good news and good things that are happening inside of the Bitcoin world and Bitcoin ecosystem. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Tune in for that. Support Taj and that show as well. And with that, guys, we're out. Appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your weekend. Go touch some grass. And we'll see you guys back here in the new week with some more content. Peace, guys.